A brand new trailer just got dropped today of the Intellivision Amico.
There may be problems.
And there might be some solutions.
Take.
Fresh off the heels of yesterday's hot take, some brand new information just got revealed on the Intellivision Amico because they just dropped a brand new trailer.
Yeah, that's right. So in this trailer, we finally got to see renders, proper 3D renders of the console itself, including the controllers, which we'll talk about, that's for sure. And we got to see a little bit more about kind of what's going on behind the scenes, some of the team that's behind the Amico itself, and actually one game that stuck out that I didn't know previously was going to be coming to the system itself, which I'm kind of excited about. I'll just let that out right now. R-Type. There's going to be, it's not a port because, like we said yesterday, this machine will not have any ports on it. This will be a remade version of, I believe, the original R-Type.
Yes. Now, let's first take a look at the renders here, okay?
Yeah.
So what we're looking at here is basically a very white system with two controllers. They're wireless, they're attached.
Do you remember what I said immediately after we saw the render, the white render? I said, that looks kind of like a reshaped Wii balance board.
Yeah, it really does. Or something that's used to resuscitate someone when their heart stops, you know? Like it actually
The two paddles?
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is what the system is going to look like. I don't want to say unfortunately. I personally don't like the way it looks too much.
Yeah.
But that's something we'll talk about a little bit later. This is what it's supposed to look like. It comes with two controllers.
Yes.
The two controllers we can see there have a screen on the top,
Yes.
have like a little dial at the bottom.
and
Not a dial, sorry, a directional
Right. We
pad.
had assumed that maybe it was a dial or some sort of a spinning sort of thing like on the original Intellivision controller. But supposedly it is mostly a D-pad. I believe a 16-directional D-pad. And then just like those original Intellivision controllers as well, we have the two buttons, the arcade buttons on the left and right side, depending on if you're left-handed or right-handed.
Yep, absolutely. So that's what we're basically looking at there. Now, something else we got to see today, too, was that they've basically announced the team that's behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the team is loaded with tons of people from the past in the video game industry and some very important folks. So we're not going to go through the entire team, but just know that there's folks from Interplay, there's folks from Shiny, there's folks from Nintendo, and like upper management of Nintendo America, like actual important people from the company.
Folks that have handled management and marketing, and while this may not sound like huge news to some people, where we have heard about other retro revival consoles, they haven't really talked that much about the folks behind the systems or the pedigree thereof. So this was kind of nice. It gives me a little more hope for this console in the future.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of people that are going to be advising the company, and that's what we saw. There was a lot of advisor roles, but there was a couple people that seem to be having more direct roles in the company that are going to really be shaping the way this company kind of expands and grows over the next 2 years. The launch date for this is going to be October 10th, 2020.
2020.
Yeah, so it's actually quite a ways out there, but the reason we're talking about it today is because there's a couple of things we saw that that were kind of like nailed down. These are things that we believe are going to be very positive features for the system.
Yeah, so this is kind of a continuation from our conversation yesterday, because we didn't have that many sort of concrete facts, but now this video has kind of, concretely shown us some of the features and whatnot of this console itself. So yes, what we'd spoken about yesterday was that they were very firm, they sounded very firm in their keynote that there's going to be no DLC, right?
100%.
In this, no DLC, even though you are technically downloading games onto this console, it's going to be mostly downloaded games to this unit. No DLC, no ports like we'd mentioned before. Some of the other things that we liked was we had spoken very, very briefly about this, the sort of quality system that they're going to be integrating into this.
They're introducing something called Blue Sky Rangers, which is a quality control system where basically they're going to prevent people from releasing bad games on the system.
Right.
So they've got that. That's like detailed in the trailer.
So you guys probably remember back in the day we had the Nintendo seal of quality. We had a little stamp on Sega Genesis games as well. This is kind of, they're continuing that sort of thing with their own iteration. So this is their stamp. So hopefully whatever their quality control methods are, it means that great games are going to be on the system.
So there's also going to be no cartridges. This is like a very important part.
So
what we're seeing here, it's not really an old Intellivision system being brought forward. It's just some Intellivision games being brought forward.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, because I think we're of two minds about it. It could be both a positive and a negative, having no cartridges to the system. So having no carts, you thought there was kind of a positive spin there?
It's basically you're not taking older technology and trying to conform it to newer standards.
Yes.
Look, those old Intellivision games, We could have tons of conversations about this. I don't believe old Intellivision games are necessarily the original ones that were on the platform. They deserve to come back, but the ones that existed on other platforms, they're not the greatest ports of games, okay? Intellivision wasn't this super powerhouse console. It came in at a very specific time where it kind of fits between two levels, and it doesn't really work for anyone. It wasn't the most popular system. It wasn't a runaway success.
Yeah.
It didn't do well originally. And I mean, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, and whereas I believe some of the positives that you said are valid, and I do believe there's a positive to be had with not having the additional hardware in there. Possibly the price might be lower because of that, because you have less internals.
Sure.
I believe there is kind of a negative to it in that this is an Intellivision system, and it's I feel like there's a specific market that's going to be buying this, and I think the folks that are going to be most happy about this have an Intellivision collection. People that grew up with these games have the carts possibly on their shelves, and they may want a way to play it. So that's just my own sort of negative spin on it.
It's 100% true. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that may have actually wanted to have some of those old cartridges they have work in the future, but
we're seeing implementation in like the collector vision for ColecoVision games.
It's weird. But I mean, I don't really think there's a heck of a lot of huge fans out there of the Intellivision. There are folks out there that had played the Intellivision growing up, but I cannot believe that somebody would want to play the Donkey Kong version of Intellivision outside of the original version of Donkey Kong in arcades, or even the NES version, which I believe is far superior.
And it seems like this company believes that as well, because from their sort of stamp of no ports, I don't believe that we're going to be getting those original games on whatever storefront that they have. They said that even though the original sort of game ideas and names are possibly going to be on the system, they're going to be these changed, newer versions of older IP.
Which is cool to actually have basically original games on there. Also, there's going to be games pre-built into the system as well.
Right.
And these are these are not old games. These are new versions of original IPs.
Yeah. Okay. Well, are they all original IP, or is it like old
reimaginings of classic games? Right. So you're not going to just get like an old game from the past brought over one-to-one. There's actual changes that are going to happen here.
I don't think these games have been announced to be officially integrated into the system itself on launch day. But some of the titles that had kind of perked my ears up were, of course, R-Type. But also they had announced that Toe Jam and Earl is going to...
Which is a weird one,
It's weird, but Toe Jam and Earl, it's a great game. If you played it, it's a great game. And Burger Time as well. It'll be interesting to see what they do with that title, because Burger Time was quite simplistic. So what can you do for today's market that's like, oh my gosh, I got to play this on this new 2D machine, right?
That might be the cool part, but here's the problem. Because there are no ports, that means anything that's on here isn't going to be ported from another machine, so the library is going to be heavily reduced.
Yes. So do you want to... I feel like we're already starting to dig into the negatives a little bit. Do you want to dig into those a little bit more?
Let's keep the last biggest one for the end there, but there is no game footage that they showed at all. So this is kind of a problem when you're showing off a video game console. Technically, it's usually a smart move to show, games, and we didn't get to see any of that. So that's a problem, because I don't know what to expect from the system. They're promising this big 2D thing, but there was no footage to be seen. So that's an issue. But I think the biggest problem I really feel that this is the biggest problem, the controller. The controller just doesn't look good. Look, maybe when I go to play it, it'll feel different. They're saying you can hold it sideways, you can hold
horizontally or vertically.
It just looks bad. It's got what looks to be a directional pad shield with a touchscreen.
That's right.
If you hold it this way, like with the D-pad to one of your thumbs or whatever.
I would assume it'd be on your left, and then your buttons would be on your right, almost like the classic sort of.
Well, see, the buttons would be a touchscreen.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. They're trying to make it like the classic NES controller.
Yes.
Except you don't have buttons; you have a touch screen. And am I going to be looking down at this glass the whole time while I'm playing these games?
See, this is a problem. This controller is not a good controller. From everything I understand of controller design, this just does not look like it's a smart move. And honestly, that is because it is based off of the Intellivision controller, which itself is considered one of the worst controllers ever designed by any manufacturer out there. Why they would want to bring that visual identity back?
It's so tough, right? Because the Intellivision, those controllers are iconic, but the reason why they're iconic is not all positive, right?
No, it really isn't.
It's known for just the sort of it's known as not a great playing controller.
There was honestly, there was a really cool homebrew game I had seen, and I played it on Intellivision that somebody made. It was basically more of a modernized version of Donkey Kong, made with some newer assets and stuff. And I played it on the Intellivision with that broke-ass controller.
Okay.
And, oh, boy, it is not fun. Like, that game may have been really good, but the controller completely removes the enjoyment you can have from that. And what I'm seeing here is a return to that form, which is shocking to me. Like, I don't understand why they're doing that.
One of the things that we discussed was like, okay, let's look at other consoles that have done like screens and their controllers, right?
Yeah.
And the two consoles that kind of came to mind were both considered sort of failed consoles, like the Wii U, for example, which, again, we love the Wii U. It's great, but it didn't sell all that well. And the
Dreamcast. Unfortunately, when you're playing a video game, you're looking at a screen in front of you. If you have to look at another screen, that breaks your immersion. That's just the way it is. Imagine if you had to play Tetris on this thing. You'd be using the D-pad, right? How do you rotate the buttons? Well, you have to look down and see where you're rotating. That's not good. This is not a smart choice. And I think that's going to get us into the next thing here. Things they can do to make this appeal to more people and to make it a success. Because we don't want to just bash the thing. There are some legitimately good ideas out here. The idea of no ports is controversial, and it can cause problems, but at the same time, it's a neat idea.
That makes a system that is full of exclusives.
Yes.
You can only go to this one platform to play these games.
That's not a bad thing.
As long as there are games.
Yes.
Right? We need to be fed. But that sounds great to me.
But I've seen controls push people away. So that's the first thing I want to bring up here.
Okay, go ahead.
The controller needs to change. This isn't debatable. This isn't questionable. I understand that the team might have some really grand vision that they're not deciding or they're telling us. And if that's the case, share that vision with us. Let us know what it is.
Yeah.
But if you're struggling actually getting that out, and in the video they didn't show how these controllers would be used to make a game more interesting or better. All I'm seeing is a bad controller idea that game developers are going to have to conform to. And if that's what they're going to do, you're going to have some problems.
Yeah.
Heck, Toe Jam and Earl, what system that originally
That was
came out
on the Genesis.
3 buttons.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you're going to use all 3 buttons, okay? Toe Jam and Earl may not have done that the entire time you were playing the game, but you're limiting yourself
you need
by
the
doing
buttons.
that,
You need
right?
the buttons.
Yeah, it becomes a problem.
So to me, it's like, okay, simple. Prove it or lose it, right? So either you prove to us, and they haven't done that yet. They should have had that in the trailer that we saw today.
Sure, yeah.
Like, why is this different from all of the other touchscreen devices that we've had, where people have had issues with touchscreen controls, even with iPads and iPhones and whatnot? Show us what makes it so fantastic, and if you can't do that, like, I'm sorry, man. Like, I know you're trying to lean on the designs of the old console itself, but it didn't work back then. You're going to have some other sort of controller. Controllers have evolved to become a certain way because they work better. And if you have something that works better than that, that's great. Just show us. Why is it? Is there some sort of tactile feedback happening on that glass, or somehow that you can replace buttons? I've never seen that happen or implemented well, but
it's just unless there's something hidden there, right? Yeah. Like Adam's saying, I think that's the only way you can get around that. But honestly, what I'm seeing there is a bad idea. What Tommy Tallarico has spoken about during his keynote presentation, what has been repeated again and again and again, is that they're going for something that's simple. They're trying to make something very easy to understand and easy to play. If that is the case, the Atari joystick with just a joystick and a button is about as simple as you can get. The dial or spinner on Pong is about as simple as you can get. What you've introduced is complexity. And what the idea could be is, well, look at all the people that are playing on their cell phones, right? People know how to use cell phones now, so this is easier. It's not easier. A cell phone is a screen and very few buttons. You've introduced, from what we can tell, 4 buttons, a directional pad, and a touchscreen in one device. That's a mistake. Anytime I'm playing a game and I got to look down at the controller to understand what I'm doing, you've completely broken immersion, and I promise you it's going to be a problem as you move forward.
Yeah, I have problems with touchscreen controls on cell phones as is, and I'm looking at the thing. So if I'm playing a video game on my monitor or on my television and I'm not looking at what my hands are doing, that's going to be an issue. If I can't feel where those buttons are,
yes,
it's
absolutely.
always going to be an issue.
You know, another problem I have too, and this is going to be something that they're going to have to address at some point down the list, is that, like, you need to kind of show us not only why these controllers are good, but you need to explain that why do we just want to have kids for games on this thing?
Games for kids.
Sorry, games for kids, right? Well, what we're seeing is apparently all the games are going to be E10 for everyone or whatever.
E10 and below is what they said.
So that means you're making a bunch of games that aren't going to have adult themes and stuff like that. Yeah. I respect that. I get that.
That's fine. Nintendo sells a lot of great games that are within that age range.
Yeah. R-Type has body horror in it.
Well, yeah.
Right? Like, R-Type has some really gross, weird-looking scenes in it. Does that
it's mean a lot of alien blood and stuff they might be able to get away with, but
so are you going to change that stuff? Are you going to pull that stuff out? Does that mean that any game developer on there, like, does this mean that ToeJam and Earl is going to not have any like gross out humor or anything because it's going to have like this removed asset from it where it's way washed down? I mean, we know that Tommy Tallarico worked on Earthworm Jim and David Perry, who is actually in development with this thing. Yeah. He worked on Earthworm Jim. It was his company that made the game. So are you telling me that Earthworm Jim...
MDK as well?
Yeah, of course, right? So you're going to tell me those kind of games aren't going to show up on this platform? Yeah. Those are some of the best 2D games, and they're gone now? Like, that's kind of weird to see that.
Yeah. So, speaking of games... I was talking to you about this. If they're trying to prove that this is like the 2D powerhouse that we're missing out on, that games evolved away from because we went into 3D processing and stuff, they're talking about how great the 2D chip architecture is in this thing. It's like the greatest 2D whatever setup for the 21st century. We don't know how this works at all. Like, okay, in my perfect world, the trailer for this system would have been, okay, just you fade in and there's just mounds of sprites, hundreds, thousands of sprites, parallax scrolling up the wazoo, you know? Like, think about the very first time you saw a Metal Slug game in the arcades. You had that eye-popping effect. Like, I've never seen anything like this before. Like, that's what the trailer should have been. Even if it's just like a proof of concept and then just shown Amico. And I would have been like, okay, something's happening here.
Yeah. To explain this a little bit further, right? What we mentioned this yesterday.
Yeah.
Modern video game consoles are made with 3D processing in mind, so games that utilize 3D effects. If there are 2D games on there, they're using a combination of the 3D graphics engine to make that effect happen, or in some cases, they're just using the raw processing power of the system. In most cases, though, that's not enough to get really amazing 2D assets and 2D graphics, so you don't see a lot of game companies utilizing that, which is why you've seen this big retro revival type thing, because it's easier to get older games like that to work. In some cases, the folks that are making Cuphead are doing really good 2D assets, but they have told us they were pushing the system to its absolute limits. So what more could be done in 2D? Well, there's a lot more that could be done.
They're saying that they're creating this console with developers in mind, and they're creating it in such a way that the architecture is easy to develop for like 2D games. So not only do I want them to show us what this powerhouse can do, I want them to kind of like maybe even dish out some of the devs that they're working with that have shown a background of great 2D games. So, like the developers of Cuphead, if they had some, I mean, they're pretty well, they're linked with Microsoft at the moment, but other devs like Way Forward, for example, or like Yacht Club did Shovel Knight. Like bring on board or show us some developers that have done such amazing 2D work in the past that we know that they're gonna have these games that are optimized specifically for what this system's supposed to do. You say this thing can run hundreds of thousands of sprites. Show us a dev that's gonna like do this system justice.
Yeah, because we kind of need to see that, right? I think another problem I also have with this, and I really wish that we had more to see on this too, is that it's 2 years. Right? We've got 2 years to wait until this system comes out.
Yeah.
And I really feel that there was a lot of talk about the hardware, a lot of talk about the people involved, but so little talk about why the experience is worth waiting 2 years. I really feel that they need to come out and say, look, in 2 years, you're likely going to see a PlayStation 5. You're likely going to see an Xbox 2. You might see a much more powerful Switch system. What is worth this system waiting for 2 years that it's going to be good by that point? In 2 years, a lot of stuff can happen, right? Like a whole range of things can happen in the game industry. They haven't given us enough to be hungry for 2 years. And I really feel that they need to establish that now.
And we like... I think what they're trying to say right now is that they're better at 2D graphics on a PS4 or an Xbox One, but what's going to be in these other consoles? Is like we don't know 100% for sure what's going to be in a PS5 or in an Xbox 2. Would it be capable of running games that have hundreds of thousands or millions of sprites? Would it be easy to develop for?
See, the thing is, whatever they develop now, whatever they're talking about now, it's going to be in development for a while. So by the time it comes out, it will have already been too late. What happens if PlayStation 5 and Xbox 2 utilize the exact same technology they're talking about in this system?
Or something better.
Yeah. And then wouldn't all these companies, or wouldn't all these developers out there that want to make new 2D games, wouldn't they make it on the bigger platforms? To pull developers into this unique platform, they really have to have an amazing sales pitch.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't a development team want their game to be ported to multiple consoles so that they could reach a broader audience? Like, if I develop for the PS5 and the Xbox One, then you'll see more of a return on that investment.
Can a game being developed on this platform be ported out to another platform? If you make it, these become huge problems as you think about them.
They said no ports coming in, but do the games made for this console, are they exclusive there, or can they be ported out to the other systems?
See, that's a big issue, and they need to really address these things. Are they going to own the IPs and the licenses to these games and never let them go?
Yeah. So, just so many things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, folks, what do you think? Are you more excited about the system now, having seen the trailer, or do you believe that it's just not really going to take off?
Yeah.
We're excited to try it. We're excited to learn way more information about it. And, folks, if you know anybody at Intellivision that is making this system and they have any kind of more information or anything like that, let us know, because we want to talk about that a bit more. And we want to get
so
more
many
into
questions.
it.
Yeah.
Hundreds of questions.
All right.
Let us know what you think in the comments below.